Welcome to Creepy Lore, where I retell the chilling encounters and unsettling accounts of ordinary people. If you're a fan of such content, subscribe to my channel to listen to more spine-tingling stories. Now, let's get into today's tale. I work at a retail store in Evansville, Indiana. It's a medium-sized chain, one of those places that seem to blend into the suburban sprawl, where people stop by for everyday essentials or to pick up something they've forgotten in the rush of life. The store closes its doors to the public at 9 p.m. and opens again at 7 a.m., but my workday doesn't start until the last customer leaves. You see, I work the night shift, restocking shelves, checking inventory, and making sure everything is in order for the next day. I'm a middle-aged man, and I've always considered myself practical, grounded. Halloween decorations, the fake cobwebs, the plastic spiders, the animatronic ghouls, never really bothered me. In fact, I find them a bit silly. Every October, the store fills with these spooky dolls and props, and every year, I roll my eyes at them. They're just toys, after all, designed to give a cheap scare to kids and a laugh to their parents. Normally, I work these shifts with another coworker. It's a big store, and the company insists on having at least 2 people on the floor during night hours, just in case something goes wrong. But tonight was different. My usual partner called in sick, leaving me to cover the entire shift alone. It wasn't the first time I've been alone at night, but this evening was different. I hadn't gotten much sleep after my last shift, having to take my kid to the hospital for a minor but urgent issue. My nerves were already frayed, and I was exhausted. As I walked into the store at 8 p.m., an uneasy feeling settled over me, a sense that tonight was going to be one of those nights I'd later regret. I brushed it off, thinking it was just the lack of sleep and stress talking. The first hour passed uneventfully, with the usual bustle of employees finishing up their shifts. But as the clock neared 9 p.m., a couple of odd things happened. First, the cash register at the front of the store started acting up. It kept opening on its own, the till sliding out with a loud beep that echoed through the store, followed by the whirring of the machine. Each time, someone had to walk over and close it, only for it to happen again a few minutes later. After the second time, the manager decided to shut down the register for the night, but not before a few employees whispered to each other about how creepy it was. I overheard one of them say, "It's Halloween season. Weird stuff always happens around now." I shook my head at that. Kids these days are scared of everything. In my 3 years working at this store, I'd seen my share of odd incidents, especially around Halloween. Usually, it was just pranksters or customers getting spooked by the decorations. Nothing to worry about. Then, just before the store closed, a customer, a young woman, suddenly bolted out of the door, screaming something unintelligible. She looked pale and terrified, her eyes wide with fear. I didn't catch what she said, but she left so quickly that the automatic doors barely had time to open before she burst through them. I watched her sprint across the parking lot and disappear into the night. One of the other employees muttered something about it and laughed it off, but I could tell the incident had unnerved everyone. We've had our share of strange customers, but that kind of panic was unusual. When the clock struck 9 p.m., the last of the employees left, and I was finally alone. The store was mine for the next 9 hours, just me and the shelves stocked with everything from cereal to Halloween masks. As the minutes ticked by, I tried to focus on my work, but the sense of unease from earlier wouldn't leave me. It clung to me like a shadow, a constant presence at the edge of my thoughts. Around 11 p.m., I had just finished restocking one of the aisles when something caught my eye. A movement, just at the edge of my vision. I turned my head quickly, only to find myself staring at one of those Halloween decorations, a ghastly figure with glowing red eyes that cackled when it sensed movement. The sudden noise startled me, making my heart skip a beat. I cursed under my breath and moved closer to inspect it. The thing was motion activated, but I hadn't been anywhere near it when it went off. I figured the sensor must have malfunctioned. Halloween gimmicks like these were cheap, prone to breaking down or going off at random. Still, I unplugged it, not wanting it to go off again. I decided to take a break shortly after. The store had a small break room in the back, and I spent 15 minutes there, sipping on some stale coffee and trying to shake off the lingering sense of unease. When I returned to the floor, everything seemed normal again. The quiet of the night shift had settled back in, and I resumed my work, moving up and down the aisles, restocking the shelves. Then, at 2:45 a.m., something truly terrifying happened. I had just come back from my second break, and I was heading toward the back of the store when I saw it. From across the store, near the malfunctioning cash register, there was someone standing there. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. The figure was tall, shrouded in shadow, and for a moment, I thought I must be seeing things. But no, there was definitely someone there. I started walking toward them, my heart pounding in my chest. I called out, thinking maybe it was a customer who had somehow stayed hidden when the store closed. But as I got closer, the figure vanished. Just disappeared. One moment it was there, and the next, it was gone. I reached the spot where I had seen it, my eyes scanning the aisles around me. There was no one. Nothing. My first thought was that there might be an intruder in the store. Maybe someone had broken in after hours. I quickly checked all the doors, but they were all locked and secure. The security cameras showed nothing out of the ordinary. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, that someone, or something, was in the store with me. The night passed in a blur of fear and paranoia, each passing minute seemed slow and heavy. Every time I turned a corner, I felt like there was someone behind me. I saw shadows moving at the edge of my vision, heard faint whispers that I couldn't quite make out. My rational mind tried to tell me it was just the lack of sleep, the stress, and the creepy Halloween decorations messing with my head. But deep down, I knew there was more to it than that. Around 3 a.m., I suddenly remembered a story one of my coworkers had told me when I first started working at the store. It was about an incident that happened 6 years ago, well before I joined. An employee, a middle-aged man like me, had been working the night shift alone, just like I was now. It was the night before Halloween, and he was found dead in the store the next morning. Heart attack, they said. But his body wasn't discovered until the store opened after the holiday, meaning it had been there, inside the store, for an entire day. The thought sent a chill down my spine. I hadn't thought about that story in years, but now, it seemed to press in on me, the details creeping back into my mind. The employee had been working alone, just like I was now. He had been middle-aged, just like me. The coincidence was too much to ignore. By this point, I was sweating profusely, my nerves completely shot. I couldn't stay in the store any longer. I had to leave. I decided then and there to call it a night, abandoning the rest of my work. Whatever was going on in that store, I didn't want to be a part of it anymore. I packed up my tools and made my way to the front of the store, trying to stay calm. As I walked across the parking lot to my car, I felt like I was being watched, as if someone, or something, was following me. A cold breeze brushed against my face, sending a shiver through me. I quickened my pace, not stopping until I reached my car. Once inside, I locked the doors and finally allowed myself to relax. The store was behind me, dark and silent, just as it should be. But I knew what I had felt inside, the sense of something lurking just out of sight, waiting. I lit a cigarette, hoping it would calm my nerves before I drove home. I glanced back at the store. From the outside, it looked peaceful, almost serene, like a saint resting after a long day. But only I knew how creepy it had been inside. As I drew more puffs from my cigarette, I casually glanced at my watch. The time read 2:17 a.m. I froze. That couldn't be right. I was certain I had taken my break from 2:30 to 2:45 a.m., right before I saw the figure near the register. I stared at the watch, my heart pounding in my chest. The time was still 2:17 a.m. Panic surged through me, my mind racing. How could it be 2:17 a.m.? Had I imagined everything that happened after my break and even taking my break? The thought made my skin crawl. It was as if time itself had rewound, erasing the last 3/4 of an hour from existence. That was the final straw. I threw the cigarette out the window, started the car, and drove away from the store as fast as I could. My hands were trembling, my heart beating wildly. As I drove through the empty streets of Evansville, I vowed to myself that I would never return to that store. Whatever was in there, it wasn't something I wanted to face again. I never did go back. The next day, I called in my resignation, citing health reasons. I couldn't bring myself to explain what had happened that night. Who would believe me anyway? It sounded like something out of a horror movie, not real life. But I know what I experienced was real. And every October, as Halloween approaches, I think back to that night and wonder what might have happened if I had stayed. Would I have ended up like that poor man 6 years ago, found dead in the store, a victim of something that defies explanation? I don't have the answers, and I don't want to find out. Indeed, truth is stranger than fiction. And that's the story. Thanks for listening. Comment below with your thoughts on what you think might have happened that night. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and share the video to help it reach more people. I'll keep bringing you more tales like this one.